Good evening, you guys. We're back for another session today. This is a pretty hot topic. We'll be talking about online assessment and test prep. That's always a big hot topic. So before we get started, we'll let everybody introduce themselves. I'm Nikki Washington, a technology facilitator here in our Department of Ed Tech.
My name is Angelica Johnson Smith, and I'm also a technology facilitator right here in EBR.
My name is Brittany Davenport, and I am also an instructional technology facilitator.
My name is Felicia Gath. I am also a district instructional technology facilitator.
Hi guys, I'm Shara Coates, and I'm the same thing. We're all instructional technology facilitators.
All right, so we like to get started and not waste time. Like I said, we're here today to talk about online assessments and test preparation. It's that season. They always say it's that season. It's that time of the year. It's time for test taking. So you'll hear it a lot from your students and your kids and even the teachers with the communication. Your students may even be attending LEAP tutoring, or you may be getting them tutoring. There's all these different tutorings and services going on. So it's that time of the year. So this is what we're here for, to have this hot topic discussion and talk about how you can utilize these resources with your students, and what resources do you as a parent actually have. So let's get right into it, and we're going to go into the best practices and tips that a parent should know before we actually talk about the technology and resources that you have.
So, because we know that there are a lot of things that happen at the school in order to prepare our students for testing, there are also some things that you all can do at home to prepare for testing. For example, making sure that you're setting a routine or putting a routine in place for your child. Usually, I don't know about you all, but my kids, they kind of are freelance children. They kind of come and go and do as they please. But when it's testing time, I'm more, I'd make sure that my kids are doing certain things. So one of those things is making sure that they get proper rest the night before testing. And because testing might take place over a series of days, I want to make sure that maybe a couple of nights before testing starts, that we get into the routine of going to bed at a certain time. Another thing is that when they get up in the before they go to bed, is making sure that everything is set out and that they have, their clothes that they need and everything like that. They can't bring their book sack, so you don't have to worry about that. They can't bring devices, so all of those things are you shouldn't worry about those. But just making sure that their lunch is prepared, their clothes are out, making sure that they have a really good breakfast that morning. That way they're able to have fuel in their body to last, because it does take endurance to take these assessments. Making sure that you have conversations that kind of reassure your child of how well they're going to do. Being able to talk to them and have conversations, and to really not make it a big deal, because a lot of kids end up having test anxiety. And so we don't want to put so much pressure on them, but in the same sense, we want to make sure that they understand that this test is important. So it's almost like it's a balancing act that we have to do. So making sure that you are encouraging them. I used to put like little messages on sticky notes on the bathroom mirror for my boys, just kind of like affirmations and things for them to read and say that morning, that just reassure them that, you got this, just anything that would just really pump them up for it. Another thing is just kind of making sure that when you drop them off, you just have that conversation right before they get out of the car of how, I'm proud of you, I love you, all of those different things that just kind of gets them in a comfortable mindset. Now, on the other hand, we do have students who have test anxiety. So we want to make sure that we do different practices, such as breathing exercises, which is one of the most common things to do is to show your child how to, when they feel anxious or upset or like, they're about to explode, how to calm themselves down with just simple breathing exercises. And we're going to share some of those with you with our presentation. Do you all have any tips or anything that you can share about preparing for testing from the home perspective?
Yes. I know that before testing is really, really like nerves and everything, and the kids don't like to eat breakfast. And so one of the things that most schools like to do is they like to have the kids to bring a snack so that they can have something to eat either during the break or right before testing. When I was in testing grades, if they brought a snack with them, because 9 times out of 10, they were too nervous to eat before the testing started, they ate the snack right before the test. I would just encourage the parents to send something healthy, no donuts, no sugary snacks, something that's gonna, give them the energy, but not too much energy. It's just a suggestion, just something that they can just bring with them and take and eat, so that they can keep their energy up and their attention. Because I know when I'm hungry, my attention span is not there at all.
And also, I think what works, I don't know if you mentioned this, Felicia, but writing your child on that first day of testing, if they read a letter from their parents, an encouraging letter, or from a guardian or someone that they love, I find that students get a sense of, oh, I have to do well on this test. So writing some type of, or sending cards, and that's something the teacher would do, but you can definitely do that at home. Like Felicia said, you're going to write a note, let them wake up to a note and a special treat, let them know that you got this, because testing can be very stressful. I know some of my students used to come and they were sick. They would have to go to the restroom to throw up. Their stomach was irritated, and it was all just from the stress of actually taking the test. So if we have those conversations and we talk with our students about, it's just a test, they just want to know what you know, and you tell them, what you've been doing well. It's the same thing as any other regular test. So we got to kind of boost their head up to just not to worry about the stress of the test. Go into the test and do your best. That's all we can ask for you to do, and not put any additional stress on the kids, because then they're not going to be able to take the test. They're going to end up getting sick and have to do makeups, and it's just a whole nother thing. So providing encouragement at home from family is a great idea.
I think they have like snacks now that you can even write little notes on. Like I think the Rice Krispie treats and maybe the granola bars you can write something on. But even like we were saying, putting those notes, because they won't have their book sacks at that time, put the notes in their lunch bag. And so it'll be something that when they do have lunch, that they can have like a little surprise or something. Just different ways to kind of pop in to just kind of motivate them and to support them. And they act like they don't like that stuff, but believe me, they do. Because I find my boys have the little notes that I have in their dresser drawers as if they threw them away, but they're really actually keeping them. So they really do like those.
And just don't stress the test. It's just another test. Don't make it into it, because we mention it every day, all day, every day. Then when the time comes, I'm gonna be like, oh my God, I got to do well. So just act like it's a regular day. Talk about it. Have your conversations about it, and work with your child with their homework, things like that. Make sure they're reading and prep them those type of ways. Go over their weekly assessments with them. Provide them with some test taking strategies that way, so you're not mentioning the L word, the LEAP test, to stress the students out. So you can find unique ways to not mention the test to stress them out, because I think we mention it so much to the point to when it comes to the test, they're like, the kids are terrified of this big test that everybody's preaching about that they have to do well on.
Anybody else have any other tips y'all want to share?
Nope, I think you guys covered everything. The things I was going to say was just don't stress it as much as everybody else is stressing it, and make sure that they realize that it's another day. Like, talk to them now about that week. It's just another day. So don't stress out that whole entire week. Start talking to them now, preparing them now, so that when that week comes, they're just going through that week like it would any other week. It's cool.
And I would say, I know testing becomes long. Sometimes it's you have 1 week, you get a weekend, and then you have another week. Maybe do something fun over the weekend so that whenever they go back to school, it's like, just a little bit more like assurance that you got it and just to relax or whatever, because testing is very long.
Very long, boring days at school, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
But at least the kids should not have homework during those times. So should be nice, hot summer days. They should be able to go outside after school and have a ball because they've been locked up all day. Literally, they get to go to lunch, the restroom, and then they're back to class because you have to wait on everybody to finish testing. So keep that in mind too, parents. After testing, you and your kids may want to do some type of decompress activities. Let them go to the arcades, go to the track, run and play, do something fun because those days are miserable for everyone. They're on lockdown, just in those four walls. Basically, you have to be quiet all day. So think about that as well. They may enjoy that too.
Well, while we are talking about those best practices and tips, I know we don't want to stress them out with mentioning the test so many times, but at the same time, we want to prepare them for the test, the format of the test, the length of the test, how the test is just set up, what it looks like, especially for those kids that are taking it for the very first time. So we have a couple of resources and tools that you as parents can find that are either online, in the stores, and at the library. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the online testing tools. So a part of our responsibility that we do when we go into the schools is we teach teachers about the online testing tools that are available to the students when they're getting ready to take their LEAP assessments. They have so many that I know when I was doing testing and when I realized that they had so many, I was like, wow. When I did testing and testing grades for the very first time, I gave the Iowa test. I don't know if y'all remember the Iowa test, but it was old, it was ancient, it was on paper. They had to color in the circles to get their answers. But the resources that were provided to them were paper-based. And if they needed a ruler, they gave them a paper ruler. They had calculators, but they also had formulas that were written on paper. And we had to sit and we had to count each one of those pieces of paper to make sure that we turned in those paper rulers and the formulas and the dictionaries and different things like that. But now the students actually have online resources that are available to them while they're taking the assessments. And they are a ton, from those that will actually accommodate them to those that will help them, work their way through the test, such as calculators, compasses, formulas for the mathematics problems. They also have highlighting tools that will help those students, stay on track with their writing. I know with us being in front of the computer so much, we can even change the screen so that we're going into dark mode so that their eyes are not strained if they're taking a computer-based test. But these tools can also sometimes be distractions to the students. So with the DRC Insight, and we do have a resource for you all to go on and get those links from it. With DRC Insight, those students can actually practice using those tools so that they're not distracted with, changing the screen or making the font enlarged or making the font smaller or just, keying in on key points. They can actually practice these and they can do them at home. So that's one of the things that I really, really like about the LADOE is that they provide those resources for the students to use at home. So another thing that they have is the online testing library bank. Now, the online testing library bank is set up two different ways. The first way is it's divided by grade level and by subject area, and it also will allow you to have a paper-based type assessment. So if you wanted to sit with your child and practice with them on paper, then you can do it, paper-based. But I know just like me, I rushed home, I got to get some cooking in, and I had to, go. You can actually use the DRC Insight as a computer-based model. And on the LADOE, on the resource that will provide you, it actually has the username and password that you can go in and use the practice model of the online assessment. Now, when my kids were taking the LEAP, that was probably my most favorite to use because they can do it at their own pace and at their own time. And also, you don't have to worry about if you know the answers, because guess what? It comes with an answer key. Because I know I didn't know answers after the third grade. I'm sorry, but it does come with a answer key, and the passwords, the logins are all provided for you. And again, it breaks it up into subject area. You got third grade all the way to 12th grade in every subject area that's covered on that assessment. And the last thing that I probably would think that we could use are the resources that are within the library. There are a ton of books that we have. We have every LEAP type of assessment that are geared towards Louisiana standards. And in addition to that, we have the ACT books. My son has taken the ACT, my daughter took the ACT, and there are so many resources that you can use for the ACT. In actuality, some of the DRC Insight assessments that they have actually prepare them for the ACT as well. So not only can you go to the bookstore and get those, you can get those from the library too. And I do believe that all of our kids do have the library access cards that we provide them with. So they have a number that they can actually use to get those online books, and you can sit at home and actually practice these things with your students. You guys have any other tips or tricks for parents at home? I know one of the big things for me was setting aside that designated time so that so my kids could actually practice. We had a calendar. They hated the calendar, and it had the subject and it had the time, what time you were going to spend on it, and the subject, and they did not like that. So if y'all have any tips or tricks for that, let me know. Although go ahead.
Oh no, I think that in most situations that teachers send home like little tip sheets and practice sheets. I know when I was at Audubon, we would start sending home parent notes of tips and things that they could start doing. So I would start looking for those things and just kind of reiterate those tips and things to do because, like you said, there are so many different resources that they have out there. Just being able to again set in the routine, like you were saying with the calendar and making sure that you kind of make it more conversational with what needs to happen versus kind of drilling them the whole time. Now, like I said, because believe me, at this point in the school year, the teachers are doing practice tests enough to prepare them for what they're going to see and what the test is going to look like. So kind of maybe having conversations with them around, well, why do you think that's the best answer? And, having just some ways to help them with their thinking patterns, that also will help because they can practice, but we need them to be able to think through what's being asked of them to do and what are some ways that they can do it. So the resources are great, but have those conversations with them as well.
And one thing about testing, the LDOE department, they don't hide any of this information, as Angelica was saying, is all available to you guys. The resources, they do want parents involved because without you, where will we be? So we definitely need parent support. They have guides already created for parents so you can know what type of test your child is taking, what grades, and you can tell. So from third grade through high school. So you guys want to talk about how the format has changed since before when it was just all paper. Now we're slowly trickling to it fully being online, because right now for 4th through 12th, those schools are online. Those students will take their entire test online. But for third grade, it's a little different. They're still doing some field testing. Some schools will take it online and some will still take it on paper this year. But eventually, once they finish that testing, then all 3 through 12 will have online tests. So anybody want to add on to that?
I was going to say with those online tests, and because the students have been used to using their actual devices, it's not something that's so brand new to them. As a parent of a child with dysgraphia, the computer actually works out better for them because you didn't have the tiring of the writing and concentrating on filling in those bubbles correctly, and it does reduce user error with that. Your students will still get those accommodations, those necessary accommodations that they need to. And it's not like it's a foreign thing. Our kids are so technology savvy right now, it's almost scary But because when they're in the classroom, they use a combination of the teacher test and they use a combination of the computer. It's not something that's so unfamiliar with them that they won't know how to actually navigate through the test. And again, you can practice that at home by using the online testing tools and, have them navigate through it and time them if need be to see how the actual test would look for them so that it's not so brand new to them.
All right. And so, as I was saying, in our resources, you'll find information if you want to read up and know exactly what your child is facing with the test. It's very detailed. It gives you a lot of resources and information as parents. You can see the schedule for testing for your students this year. So you can see all of that information is provided. If you were curious, if the school has not provided you with that, you have all of that. And what I like also as a parent, we're also waiting on those test results. So how do I analyze those test results? What does this mean? It even breaks that down for you here. You have a link here to help you understand what does all of that mean on those reports, because those test results are sometimes important for our students if they're going into gifted, magnet, and they're trying to get into those type of schools. Then those test results matter. If you want to analyze that, they do break that down and answer questions for you. They even have here some resources to help you prepare for the actual online tests here for your students. They have resources here, and then they have a whole family support toolbox here provided for you that can help you with this stuff. It's all here from the state that you can utilize for your students here. And also you can even come on here and get links, and it's provided all here in the presentation to actually access the testing platform for your child to see how the test actually looks to your child. So if you go to the presentation, you'll see access to all of that information here. You'll just click on the images into the presentation and it'll bring you here. And this is just an example of what the test looks like for your student that even come here to practice. So if you want to even practice with your child to simulate what an actual LEAP test will actually look like for them, you can come here, type in let me type it in too. You can type in the username and the password here to let your child actually do a simulation of the online assessment, which is great. So you can see what support your student may need, because you can actually reach out to the teacher and let the teacher know, hey, I did the practice test with my child and they didn't know how to use one of the tools. So you're just going to hit continue here on this screen and hit continue here. And we're going to just go and look at a third grade assessment. Make this a little bit bigger. And this is good to walk your students through this, even though the teacher should as well. But if you just want to make sure they're extra familiar with the platform, you can definitely walk them through this as well so they can get practice. And then this is where they actually get to simulate what an actual test looks like online, and they'll see the testing tools. And we have some information about this also in the presentation, where the students are able to turn on the pointer. This is how they choose their answers. They're able to use test taking strategies. I love to tell students to use test taking strategies so they can come here and eliminate wrong answers, cross them out. The same things they would actually do if they were taking a paper test. They still have those options to do that. They can highlight important information. So if you turn on use highlighter, all of this is great things that parents could do to just make sure your child is ready and prepared for the test by using all of the tools. They have a sticky note here where they can take notes. They can create a sticky note here and have notes here on their screen. They also have a magnifying glass if they need that. They have a line guide here that the students can use. You see, you can turn it on or off. And this is what Angelica mentioned earlier. We don't want them playing with these items during the actual test, because the test is timed. So we don't want them wasting their time playing with these things. So definitely let them play with it, experience it, and teach them how to actually utilize these things, so that when the test comes up, it's no question about what I need to do. So you see they have their measurement tools here. So for third grade, they only needed a ruler. So they'll have access to their ruler here. So as a parent, I'm going to go through here and make sure that they are familiar with these tools and when to use them here in their test. So this is a great resource just to practice with your students so that they can make sure that they are familiar with the test here. And also, this is another item that I like. It's kind of hiding here on my screen. Let me see if I can get rid of it. It won't let me get rid of it. but it's flagged. You can flag a question. So down here, the students will be able to flag a question on their assessment. And I like that because when they get back to the end of the assessment here, that means I'm not going to waste my time on it. I'm just going to flag it. If it's just something I just don't know, I'm frustrated with it, it's okay to move on. I'm going to flag it, and that way I'll go through all the problems that I had no problem doing, and I can come back here and spend my additional time here. So teach your students how to use and navigate this platform, and I promise you they'll go through this test with ease. And like I said, the teachers are working with them, but as a parent, I probably would just want that comfort of my own, making sure that I can see what type of questions my child will encounter, and is he comfortable with the platform. You guys want to add anything about the actual testing platform?
I was going to also say that because they're standard based, if you go back after they complete it and they submit everything, it lets you know where they got or what they got wrong. So you can always go back to that parent portal that's in the presentation and find that actual standard, and you can get practice materials either from your teacher or from the LEAP assessment books or the actual paper assessments that they have on here, so that you can, enrich and enhance your students so that they can do better each time.
Then I just also would advise them, if at all possible, don't skip your questions. Try to answer all of your questions and use your time wisely, and don't rush through the test, because it may be a section of the test where they've given you maybe 15 questions and 75 minutes to get it done. That don't mean that I want you to be done in 15 minutes. Make sure you take your time, read the question, reread them, use your strategies that your teachers has taught you, your RDW, if you're in social studies, your CER, your race, whatever it is. Take your time on the test. Don't rush yourself, but do be mindful of the time. Their teachers should have a timer on the screen on their board for them, and they'll let them know when they're getting close to time. So, because that's one thing we do notice with students, they'll rush through the test. It's like, you just opened up this test. There's no way you should be finished. Take your time, read through the questions before you mark them, and then just be careful about going through and changing answers frequently. That would be a red flag in the system. So if they could just manage their time, take their time with their test, they wouldn't need to go back and change the questions. And don't rush through the test. Use as much of that time as you need to actually finish that test. And then once you finish, you can take a break and wait for your other students. So those are some of my suggestions here for students that are actually taking the test. And then they do have those options here. And then, of course, as they're going through the different tests, there'll be different types of items that the students will run into on their actual test. So keep that in mind as well. This is an online assessment, so they will have tech enhanced items. They will have to do some drag and drop. And these are not new to students. They encounter all of these things from the district test, weekly tests that teachers give them just by using Google Slides and Google. They do most of these things anyway, but the state has provided parents with these resources. If you were concerned about, okay, what type of technology enhanced items will they have? So they have drag and drop. They'll have a drop down menu, the hot spots on some assessments. They'll have matching. They'll have text highlight. And when you get into some of those math classes, they will have bar graphs. They'll have to do some graphing and place things on number lines. So those are some of the items that the students will encounter. And it just gives a description on what that means for the students. But I'm pretty confident that all of our students have encountered all of these technology enhanced items at some point on their tests throughout the year. But as a parent, if you want to make sure you go through that with them, you can definitely utilize these practice assessments that the state has provided to practice these technology enhanced items with the students. And then also here on our slideshow, we do have what Angelica mentioned early. If you didn't know what these items were and you want to talk with your kids, you do have a little graphic here to let them know when to use those tools and what they're actually used for, because they may see those tools and use those tools, but they may not know when to actually utilize those tools. So we have that available as well. And then the last thing that I want to talk about as far as what the test will look like for our students, these are some of the tests, the type of test questions that they will have. So they will have evidence-based And these are all things, like I said, I am in the classrooms. I see teachers are working with the students on this evidence-based selected responses. They will make sure they need to read, and their answers is based off the evidence here in the text. I see teachers working on it all of the time. So if that's something you as a parent want to make sure your child is comfortable with, you definitely can practice it here or ask the teacher for more supporting items there. Also, you have the multi-select. And it's good for students. They may want to highlight important information, bold information, so that they don't remember, because that multi-select, you see here, they have in bold here, 2. So it makes sure our learners select 2 answers here, or they'll miss some of their points. So make sure they pay attention to those important details and use those tech tools to help them go back and check that information and highlight it for them if they want to. I don't know why I keep doing that. All right, and then the old famous constructed response. They used to have to write these pages in their actual booklet when they were doing paper based. So now your student is expected to actually type their responses here. So if you want to help your child by having them take some keyboarding classes, that'll be great. But they have more than enough time. They give them more than enough time. If they're a pecker, they'll be able to pick their way through and type their responses. But you just may want to give them guidance on making sure that the sentence starts with a capital letter. You have your punctuation. They're still looking for those things in these constructive responses, correct spacing and things like that, to make it organized and easy to read. So as a parent, you can definitely work with them on that if you choose to, just to help them be successful on their constructive response. So those are some of the items and things that you can practice with your learner to make sure they're successful on not just the LEAP test, but weekly assessments and district assessments that the student may encounter as they go throughout the year. Anybody want to add on to that?
I would say a lot of the points that you just brought out was some of the things that I wanted to say. I think it's important that they pay attention to the directions and to keep reminding them to pay attention to the directions, because I think those multiple answer questions are the ones that always get the kids, because they don't pay attention that they're supposed to have 3 answers selected. And so they may pick more than one, but they still didn't select enough answers based on what the directions said.
Yeah.
Another thing is the factor of helping them to understand that, and this is something teachers work on in the classroom, but the new testing format is all of these answers could be a correct answer, but one answer is the best answer, or some of these are better answers based on the evidence presented. And so you need to help them understand, what does that mean? What does it mean to select the best answer if all of these answers are possible correct answers? The highlighting tool, like Nikki was saying, highlighting in the directions how many answers I need to have, or even when they're reading a text, I always talk to my kids about, because you are being timed, it helps to know what you're looking for. Look at your questions and your answer choices prior to going into the text. And as you come up with some of these keywords that you remember from the question, do a marking or a highlight so you can know what section to go back to when you're looking for the text evidence. Because some of our students are slow readers, and like Nikki said, some of them are peckers when it comes to typing the answers. So all of their time is going to be spent there. Let's take a little shortcut and say, well, let me at least know what I'm looking for. And so when I come across that section of the text, then I can know I need to come back here to check my answer or to find the evidence based on the questions that are being asked.
All right.
I have something to say. So you'll be surprised how many students that, I know parents are so nervous when testing comes up, but if their teacher has been doing some of these things all year, that student is just not going to be as stressed out about a lot of this stuff, because it'll come normal because they've been doing it all year. It's a lot of times scary when you just start to know stuff about LEAP or hear stuff about LEAP like as soon as the test is about to come. But if you have a teacher that's been doing it all along, or now that you guys have this information, is for all grades. So I mean, you can even have them do it sometimes in your spare time or on breaks from school. Who wants to work on breaks? But my daughter has to sometimes. But you know, just having these things become norm. They're like test taking skills, and they can be used beyond elementary, beyond middle, high. You know, you have to take tests even when you grow up, be an adult, or even in workplace. So it's just test taking strategies that I think will be beneficial at any level.
All right, so let's get into some of our questions. So our first question: can the students practice at any grade level?
So I'm gonna say yes, even though the LEAP online assessments and the manuals and the testing materials are all geared to grades 3 through 12. Of course, you can practice at any grade level that you choose. It'll probably be, you know, especially in the summertime, if you can do it in the summer, if you wanted to do enrichment in the summer, have your student practice the grade above where they were or where they're going to. Or even if you want to do a little bit of like a small group instruction at home, you can do it where they missed out on, you know, during the school year. You can go back and address those needs and kind of make a combination of both. So if you have a student that's going to the 4th grade next year, get them into the testing materials for 4th grade. Look at those standards in that practice guide, in that parent practice guide, or the quick start guide that we have, and see what standards will be addressed for the upcoming school year. So for any student, they can practice at any grade level.
And we have that resource provided for you in the presentation. You can access it, and these are the practice items that you will be able to practice from 3 through 8. And then, you know, high school looks a little different, so you can practice your English, algebra, your math, and your science and your social studies. So definitely check out those resources. It provides you with all of that great information. All right, so our next question: are the scores recorded on the practice tests? Nope, it's just practice. It's not going to hold it against you, so you won't have to turn it into your school and say, "Hey, I practiced the test. This is what I got," and they're going to give you some fake test scores. Nope, it's just for practice purposes, just for you to see what type of questions you may encounter, even your parent to see what type of questions they may encounter, and to make sure that you're ready and prepared for the test. And if you struggle with something, that's a great way to fix it before the test. All right, next question. Not a question. Love the typing feature. Yeah, so students have to actually learn how to type at some point, especially if they're going to go to college and they have to type all those essays. But they really do pick well. They really pick well, and they make it through the test, and they get everything written and typed. But that's something that an extracurricular activity you may want to work with at home. Just practicing some typing practice. I learned how to type off Mavis Beacon. So you can, I don't know if they still, I don't know how, it was a CD-ROM, so I don't know how they practice typing. They have these different games and online resources, but you know, everything is going away from being free. It's a type of freemium, or they end up paying you. So you may have to pay for a good program online for your students to practice in their extra time, just to make sure, especially when they get to high school, they have to do a lot of typing and they want to get it done quickly and not take all day. Then that will be something to definitely invest in.
Or you could just go old school and get a piece of text that they need, that they can type, have a timer, and let them use their whatever device you have at home for them to type, and they need to get so many words within a certain amount of time, and then that's definitely free. And so, because the objective is to become more familiar with the keyboard, to know how to manipulate your fingers to type faster. So just give them any piece of text. You can find something, a book that they have at the house or anything. Use your cell phone to time them and just give them time to practice retyping that. But like I said, I know it was in the dinosaur age, but that's what I did in typing class all year long when I was a senior, was just retype something that my teacher gave me.
Yep. And I was thinking earlier when you were saying the students need to practice with the capital letters and the punctuation and complete sentences. one easy way to do that is because all of us have cell phones and we all text all the time. You can kind of make it a requirement every now and then in your texting with your child to make them respond to you in a complete sentence. So start using those capital letters, correct punctuation, correct grammar while they're texting, because they text all the time every day. So that's one way just to practice and get it pushed into their mind, their heads, that's what they need to start doing.
And Grammarly is a great app or tool to have as well, because like you said, it beyond the test, it's a life skill to be able to communicate in writing to people, especially with us being virtual and jobs being virtual, and you're not having to actually go into the office to actually communicate with someone verbally. You have to send emails, you have to send documents and things like that. So being able to catch those errors and to correct them is very, very important, with them being able to communicate even outside of testing.
All right. Can tests be done on any device or just a school issued device Chromebook? Well, testing will take place at your school site. You can't be virtual for your testing, unfortunately. Even the virtual school students, for testing, they report to EBR site and they're monitored, and they take the test on devices provided by the school. So leave your person, like Ms. Gaff said earlier, leave your personal devices at home. They won't be allowed. We'll give you a device that's set up and ready for monitoring. So that means leave your smart watches, all those smart things at home. We'll give every student a device. So even if you're in a virtual school, you have to report to a school site to take your test, because we have to monitor you and make sure you're on the proper device, and that your device will actually allow you to take the test online.
Now, the practice test is a practice test. That's a home test. So you don't have to be on a school-issued device to do the practice test on the little DRCN site. You can use any device that's at your home. But like Nikki said, don't come with your MacBook for testing day to take your test, because it does have to be, the official test has to be on the school-issued device.
And then your test also, if you're doing the practice test at home, it may not work as great on a tablet. So it'd be great if you had like a desktop or something to where, or even your cell phone. That would be horrible. You won't be able to see much and navigate it as you should. So if you do have a device that you can access, definitely use that instead of a tablet or a cell phone for practice. It'll best be that your best bet will be to be on a device. You can even go to the public library if you want to, if you don't have a device at home, and access these resources and practice. They give you a card, a certain amount of time that you can stay on the computer and practice. So there's ways that you can do it. And I know our high school students, you already have your devices at home with data on it, so you're good to go. All right, so that was all of our questions. So let's get back to our topic. We talked about best practices. We talked about resources and tools for parents and how to access those. So parents, we definitely want you to make sure you access the presentation so that you can get access to all of those resources. But LDOE has an abundance of resources for parents that you probably did not know that that was available for you. They have all of those because they do want you to participate in this experience with your students. All right, so now we're going to talk about some parent experiences with online tests. So Ms. Shar.
Hey, you guys. So I'm going to kind of give you guys my perspective as a parent and how I feel when my child is getting ready to take a test. But it's so weird because we talked about like everything that I planned to say, we've already kind of talked about it, but that's okay. So I think for me, I get very, very nervous because just having a kid in school, period, you can't control anything that goes on in the school environment. So we know that every day. But for testing, I feel like, oh my God, I wish I could do this, or I wish I could do this, but you still can't. So I feel like it's very important to control what you can, which is the home environment. So we know that we've already mentioned like the bedtimes. Like my child really doesn't have a bedtime. But when testing comes, it's like she knows she has to go to bed. I usually pack lunch anyway, but she know when testing comes, she gonna get like good lunch. Like last year we had hot wings, and I was getting up a little earlier. She wasn't having like the Lunchable. She was having some good things. So just making it like a little bit more special for her. so that you can get through the day. Because, oh my God, like even as a teacher or an administrator, if you're administrating the test, it is so tiring to just keep sitting there all day long. So I feel like as a parent, it helped my nervousness to just modify the things that I could control or handle or change the things that I can control. Like just doing the home environment. Felicia mentioned the sticky notes. I've done that, or even like small incentives. Like last year I did you're gonna crock the test, and I gave her some crocs. I know that's team extra, but that's me. But you don't have to go that far, but a little small note, or like you'll do excellent with a little Kindle egg, the candy or whatever. So I don't know. Like Felicia said, even the big kids seem to like that stuff, even though you think they may not. So I just feel like also just encouraging them, like telling them they're going to be great. Also snacks, making sure they have the great snacks that they like. Angelica said healthy snacks. Yeah, healthy snacks. But also you can give them, if they want Takis, give them Takis. If that's going to help them to do good on the test. Just something to look forward to, because the days are long and they're very, very, very boring. So just modifying, I feel what helped me was that I sent her off and I did everything that I can do from the home standpoint to where she can go to school and everything could be good. Because imagine going to school and your mom forgot to give you your lunch. You always have lunch, but you don't have lunch today. Now, just making sure that the normal things that are in their school day is there, plus a little extra. So that's my perspective as a parent.
And if the school has, or your site, if you feel your child needs tutoring, most schools they'll do tutoring for a month or so. So if you feel the need, definitely reach out to the school, reach out for that tutoring support, depending on what school. Some schools don't have it available. That's of course free through the school. So if you feel like you need that extra support, or just reach out to your child's teacher and tell them that they need extra support. That's what teachers are there for. They will provide the child with extra support and some testing strategies. Or you could even meet with the teacher to have them let you know whether some strategies that you could work with your child with at home to help relieve the stress and make sure that the child is successful on the test. What else, you guys?
And just don't forget those basic things. We're talking about test preparation and making sure they're reading the questions and all the rest of it, but just reading with your child, just reading anything with your child, and then working on those basic math facts, because that's going to save them a whole lot of time on the test if they just know those basic math facts. And that's just something that y'all can play a game with. Y'all can do flashcards. Y'all can sing a song, whatever works in your home. Just work on those basic skills with your students, with your children, and that's going to help them out a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're reviewing their homework, and they should be able to, they were in the class, they sat there and they listened to the lecture or went through the lesson. They shouldn't struggle with that. But if they are, that's fine. You definitely reach out to the teacher and monitor that homework with the students, monitor their grades to see where they are, because that's an indication that, hey, I may need some intervention with my child. Reach out to the teacher and see how the school can support before LEAP testing comes, because it's February. March, some schools start in March, and then definitely April is testing. So there's very little time left to intervene. So, but we definitely can use that time. Every minute does matter. We definitely use that time that we have left to intervene and provide support so that our children are successful, because these test scores, even though we say it's just a test, it is, but like we said earlier, in some cases, it's very important to a child and what determines what school they get into, and also just determines how they're going to feel about testing and their motivation. Because if they're not doing well on the tests, it may not be that they don't know. It just may be that they're not a great test taker. So we're going to have to help them become a better test taker, things like that. So I don't believe that these tests just indicate that this is the smartest child in the world. Some kids know how to take a test and do well with a test because they know how to use their testing strategies. Some kids are very smart and they take the test and they flunk it. It's not because they didn't know. It could have been their nerves, or they just don't have the proper test taking strategy. So there's a lot of different things that we can figure out with working with your parents. We can work with the teachers in the school to figure out so that all of our children are successful. Because even though I'm not an advocate of testing like this, this is what it is. So we have to help our kids navigate through this testing.
I have one more thing to say. So I don't know if you guys remember, but I do. When we took tests in school, my teacher always gave us peppermints. So I was so mad. I went out at 10 o'clock at night to go get my daughter some peppermints to put in her little Ziploc bag for the day. Because, I mean, of course, they probably don't help. But if you're getting a little tired or whatever, I just feel like you can put your little peppermint in your mouth and it'll just give you a little energy. If not anything, I don't know if it give you knowledge.
No,
but-
I was gonna say, so y'all know me, Miss Psychology. So if you do peppermints or a certain candy while you're studying a certain part of material, so let's just say, for instance, you were doing multiplication and division, and you gave that child a peppermint or a butterscotch, something with some flavor to it, while they were practicing and going through those drills, if you give them the same type of candy when they get ready to take the test, the olfactory senses triggers the memory, and they remember, oh, I remember when I did this step by step with this one, and I remember when I did this step by step with that one. So the peppermint is something that's really good. And also, I know a lot of teachers don't like gum chewing, but chewing gum really, really helps to calm the nerves, especially if you have a student that's a hummer, because I had a lot of hummers in my class. Tappers, if you give them some gum, you will make your life a whole lot easier. Just give them a place to put it when they get done with
So
it.
you go from tapping to smacking. Got it.
I'll take a little smack.
Well, the rule was you couldn't smack your gum. or
Right.
blow
Smack
bubbles.
and you couldn't blow bubbles. Right.
All
I
right, you
think
guys.
the other thing is, like I said, they are definitely going to get more than enough practice with testing throughout the school year, especially the closer testing comes. So I know can I say the drill and K word? I know stuff the KILL word.
Let's just not enact like we did.
But anyway, I would say we don't want to just drill with our with the kids, because by the time they actually have the test in front of them, they are going to be so exhausted and tired, and that's when those kids finish it quickly because they're so disgusted and frustrated with having to see it at home and see it at school and see it after school, that they're just like, they don't even care anymore because they're so tired of it. They just want to be done with it. So just remember, don't over drill your kids. Like Brittany was saying, make it fun. I used to do like almost like a hot hand type thing where I put all the multiplication cards on the table and you had to hit it and say the problem and the answer first. And then you get those cards. My boys used to love that. Y'all don't know how many things we broke in the house playing that game because we were all being really rough with it. So,
And just to reassure the parents, rest assured, your students, principals, administrators, our leadership, they are monitoring this. If you feel like you don't want to touch it at all, you really don't have to as a parent. But if you're that parent, you just want to be involved, you definitely can. But as Ms. Gaff said, they have gotten many experiences. They take district tests, the pre-assessment, the mid-year assessment. Then they're going to come back and take the assessment. And these assessments are similar to what they would encounter on their EOC, their LEAP score, their LEAP test as well. So the students are prepared. But there are minor things that us as parents could do just to make sure that we do our part and we are involved. And just know, sometimes I just want to know, what are they doing in 5th grade this year? What does it look like in 6th grade? Not that I'm going to teach it in depth, but just to be in the know. So if I do need to support my child, I can. So just keep that in mind. We're not asking you to take on the task of being your child's tutor, because some people can't tutor their own child. I understand. You get frustrated. You get frustrated with them, and it's just not what you want to do. So we definitely understand, but we did want to educate you guys on the resources that are available and support that you can get. And also remember, your school is your first line of defense. Reach out to them, to the teacher, the principals, and administrator for any support. If you do need support with online assessments, it's ACT prep test time. Students are taking the ACT. So if you need support with that, most of them take it at the school. And then some parents, you go and you let them take it on your own. You pay for those, and so that those students can get those scores. So kudos to you. So we wanted to come here today and talk to you guys about online assessments and some things that you can do. But please, definitely don't, if teaching is not your ministry, you do not have to take that on today. So we're going to close out. If you guys don't have any more questions or comments, And we'll be back one more time this school year. We'll be back one more time this school year for the end of the school year, and next year, if you guys want it, we'll continue these series, but we want like a little bit more participation from you guys. Maybe we'll even invite some of you parents to come up to be on the panel and give us some feedback and interact with the parents. So EdTech is signing out, you guys. It's been a long day. Hope you enjoyed. We'll see you next month.